And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Caitlin Burke. It's a new line in the sand in the battle between gay rights and religious freedom. A group of prominent Christian leaders are issuing a warning to the Supreme Court. If it legalizes gay marriage, they will not obey.
The Supreme Court will soon make a decision on same-sex marriage. Two big questions are being considered. First, do same-sex couples have a constitutional right to marry? And second, if they do not, must states with marriage bans recognize same-sex marriage licenses from other states?
As of today, only 11 states have chosen to enact same-sex marriage. But if the Supreme Court says it's a constitutional right, we'll have it in all 50. That means 39 states will have the will of the people overturned.
In a document titled Pledge in Solidarity to Defend Marriage, Christian leaders say they'll continue to defend traditional marriage, even if it means civil disobedience. The pledge reads in part, "While there are many things we can endure, redefining marriage is so fundamental to the natural order and the common good that this is the line we must draw and one we cannot and will not cross." Todd Starnes of Fox News reports that many well-known Christian leaders have signed the pledge, including former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, former U.S. Senator Rick Santorum, and Franklin Graham, president and CEO of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Samaritan's Purse. James Dobson of Family Talk Radio is also involved in the pledge. He tells Starnes that marriage is fundamental, and that, quote, "it's the foundation for the entire culture. It's been in existence for 5,000 years. If you weaken it or you undermine it, the entire superstructure can come down. We see it as that important." Analysts and Christian leaders warn that legalizing same-sex marriage could be a direct threat to religious freedom. For instance, if the Supreme Court rules that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right, the government could eventually take away the tax-exempt status of religious organizations that don't agree with gay marriage.
We're already seeing cases around the country in places where there is same-sex marriage, where a Christian who bakes wedding cakes or prints announcements or rents out a hall for receptions may violate state law or local law if they don't want to promote a gay ceremony. This could go even further.
The Supreme Court's ruling is expected to come down in June, but these Christian leaders aren't waiting till then to make their positions clear. They're saying right now that traditional marriage is the cornerstone of modern civilization, and it has to be defended.
Religious freedom should take priority over gay rights. That's what most Americans think, according to a new Associated Press GFK poll. 56% say the government needs to protect religious liberties when they conflict with gay rights. Only 40% say it should be the other way around. Meanwhile, 52% say wedding-related businesses should be allowed to refuse services to same-sex couples.
A flower shop owner who lost her lawsuit over her refusal to provide services for a same-sex wedding is appealing to her state Supreme Court. Baronelle Stutzman owns Arlene's Flowers in Richland, Washington. She says her religious beliefs prevented her from providing flowers for a same-sex wedding. A judge ruled earlier this year that Stutzman broke the law when she told a longtime customer that she couldn't serve his gay wedding because of her religious beliefs.
Hundreds of protesters took to the streets across the country again yesterday following the death of 25-year-old Freddie Gray. Right now, all police are saying is that Gray died of a, quote, significant spinal injury. And an attorney for Gray's family says his spine was 80% severed in the neck area. Baltimore police say they will not make their internal report on his death public. Instead, it will be filed with state investigators Friday. Meanwhile, Baltimore remains a city on edge. Rebuilding will not be easy. But as CBN News reporter John Jessup found, there are those who believe it is worth the fight.
A stone's throw away from the CVS that went up in flames, businesses show their determination, picking up the broken pieces and planning to reopen their doors. For others, like Montrell Haygood in seminary school, the resolve isn't just about physical things.
Man, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not going anywhere, man. I'm here.
It's about community.
All right, bro, take them two for yourself, baby.
Hope and love.
It encourages me to see surrounding communities come in and flood us with love. I know that it's going to be hard work. I know that it's not going to be a cakewalk from here, but I am encouraged nonetheless.
Baltimore is known as Charm City, but it's the unrest and violence of the past week that has drawn media attention and outside protesters. But it has also been a call for churches and ministries to offer hope and healing to the community.
Father, take us from the four walls of the church into the outside territory.
Uproar Church, located on the city's outskirts, is one example. With food, prayer, or just a listening ear, its members show their love and support.
It was absolutely heartbreaking to see a city that so desperately needs Jesus, and to see the outcry of a people that feel like they don't have a voice.
We serve the invisible God, but I believe He gave the world a visible church.
Others, like these chaplains, traveled a little farther, and within minutes of parking their RV, had 3 people who prayed the sinner's prayer.
Never expected that to happen that quick, but God's in control, and that's what we're seeing.
It's nothing new for them. The ministry to areas of civil unrest was birthed last year in Missouri after the death of Michael Brown.
One thing we did learn from Ferguson, from the gang members, we hug people. That's who we are. We love to hug people.
Others, like Jerry Levy, are targeting the city's youth, aiming to mentor young men, asking them to don a hat as a reminder of how men used to act.
It showed that men had respect. You know, when you walked into a building, you took your hat off, but when you step back outside, you put your crown back on.
For Montrell, the efforts of all these different ministries show that something good can come from the bad.
I'm not going to say that it can't get any worse, but I think that this is the perfect example for the Lord to show his strength in all of this and show how powerful He is and great He is.
John Jessup, CBN News, Baltimore.
The death toll from Saturday's earthquake in Nepal has passed 5,000. That quake injured more than 10,000 while leaving thousands more homeless. As Gary Lane reports from Kathmandu, the survivors desperately need help.
The aftershocks from Saturday's earthquake have lessened. Tremors are less frequent and milder now. Still, many people remain outdoors, living under tarps and tents, fearing that another big quake may come and destroy their homes. This man told us he's afraid a volcano may erupt. Living without food, electricity, and water, another man complained about the lack of response from his government.
There is no one can help for us, for nothing.
Some stores and businesses are beginning to reopen here, but many people are choosing to leave town.
Here in Kathmandu, a line, not just blocks long, but miles long. Thousands of people, not hundreds, waiting to get on buses here to get out of town. They say they want to get out of Kathmandu and back to their villages as soon as possible.
This man said he's returning to his village because of poor conditions in Kathmandu. Others are leaving to check to see if their family members are okay. As the death toll climbs, thousands of grieving Nepalis attend cremation ceremonies like these at Patsupinath, the largest Hindu temple in the country. Pockets of destruction can be seen throughout the city, and recovery teams from around the world have come to lend a helping hand. But the greatest need for recovery and relief is outside Kathmandu, in remote mountain villages. Many are difficult to reach, and because many of the homes in the rural areas are made from stone and mud, the death toll is expected to worsen. CBN News met up with this woman in Sakuna, a village about a 3-hour drive from the Nepal capital. She lives alone with 2 children. The earthquake destroyed her home and possessions. She says, "There's a lot of pain in my heart. I'm not able to speak. I'm not able to think of what we're going to do." After assessing Sunita's needs, CBN Disaster Relief pledged to return to bring her and other villagers the help they need to endure the upcoming monsoon season and to begin rebuilding their lives. Sunita says she just wants people to help her. Gary Lane, CBN News, Kathmandu, Nepal.
Some good news amid the destruction in Nepal. A teenager is alive after being buried under the rubble of the 7.8 magnitude earthquake for 5 days. Crowds in Kathmandu cheered Thursday as 18-year-old Pemba Tamang was pulled from the wreckage.
Call an entertainment, so he wasn't specifically crushed, but what he was inside of a box with heavy concrete all around him. So the USAID teams, what we did is we worked side by side with the local teams, and we were there to assist them in getting this victim out.
Now, that team was rescued after workers heard his cries for help. The earthquake has also taken a serious toll on the Christian community in Nepal. Later in this newscast, we're going to have more on how Christian aid groups are responding to this crisis.
A top Iranian opposition leader says Iran is behind the rise of ISIS. Miriam Rajavi told a U.S. House subcommittee Wednesday that Iranians have dubbed their government the godfather of the Islamic State group. Rajavi heads the National Council of Resistance of Iran. She also says Tehran wants nuclear weapons so it can foster even more Islamic extremism. And she argues it's a bad idea for the West to make concessions in the nuclear negotiations.
Federal agents have arrested a Miami resident accused of being an ISIS sympathizer. Officials say 45-year-old Miguel Morgan Diaz was plotting to shoot people and credit ISIS for his attacks. Diaz reportedly described himself as a lone wolf for ISIS. The FBI says he had multiple weapons and planned to become a sniper. He told an informant he wanted to leave behind shell casings with ISIS engraved on them so Americans would know there was an ISIS sniper in town.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has officially announced he's running for president in 2016. The independent self-described Democratic Socialist senator says he will seek the Democratic nomination, joining Hillary Clinton in the race for the party's vote. Sanders says his democratic socialism has appealed to Democrats, Republicans, and independents for many years in Vermont, and he thinks his message can resonate across the country. He's vowing to fight income inequality.
Coming up, more on the earthquake in Nepal and how it is impacting the church community. You'll also hear what Operation Blessing is doing to provide some relief. Hundreds of Nepalese Christians died as their churches crashed down while they were inside of them during Saturday's devastating earthquake. CBN News has learned 260 Christians died in a church collapse in western Nepal. According to an article in Christianity Today, about 80 people died when the Nepali Evangelical Church in Kapan outside Kathmandu collapsed. Sadly, many similar stories are expected to emerge, and overall, approximately 500 Christians are believed to be dead. Christians make up about 1% of Nepal's 29 million, mostly Hindu population. Nevertheless, churches are working to bring aid and comfort to other victims.
CBN's Operation Blessing is on the ground in Nepal, distributing relief aid to victims of the quake. Our David Darg is in a community about 40 minutes outside Kathmandu, where searchers are working to recover bodies from a 5-story building that collapsed.
There are many rescue missions like this going on, recovery missions for the dead, but Operation Blessing is here to take care of the living. And we have been really busy today getting relief supplies out into the hands of people that have lost everything. We've seen people that have lost their homes and all of their possessions and now are living in tents with very little access to food and essential items. So Operation Blessing is providing rice today. We've been providing hygiene supplies, and we've been purifying water. We brought in specialized equipment to produce chlorine. We've set up special water stations in different villages and communities. So we're really on fire here in Nepal, getting a lot of great relief work done, and we'll continue to over the next few days and weeks.
You can help Operation Blessing deliver this much-needed aid to Nepal's quake victims. Just go to their webpage, which can be found at cbn.com.
I mean, Muslims are normally good people, like everyone else. But when they reach Quran, then they become a killing machine.
Coming up, a former Muslim recalls her shocking discoveries about Islam. We'll follow this brave woman on her undercover mission to expose Islam. It's coming up after this. Listen to this quote. Muslims are normally good people like everyone else, but then when they read the Quran, they become a killing machine.
The woman who said that knows what she's talking about. She's a former Muslim herself who's now facing death threats for spreading the truth about Islam. Dale Hurd brings us her powerful story from Sweden.
This woman is on a mission. She's not a Muslim, and her Muslim dress is a disguise. Her mission is for Muslims to know what is in the Quran, because she says if more Muslims knew what was in the Quran, more would leave Islam. Mona Walter came to Sweden from Somalia as a war refugee when she was 19. She says she was excited about joining a modern European nation with equal rights for women. But as a young Muslim woman, that was not the Sweden she encountered. In fact, she says it was in Sweden where she first experienced radical Islam on a daily basis.
I discovered Islam here in Sweden. In Somalia, you're just a Muslim. You're just born into Muslim country without knowing the Quran. But when you come to Sweden, then you go to mosque. And there's a Quran, so you have to cover yourself, you have to be a good Muslim.
Walter says she grew up in Somalia never having read the Quran.
So I didn't understand what I was part of. I didn't know who Muhammad was. I didn't know who Allah was. So when I found out, I was upset. I was sad and I was disappointed.
She says she discovered that Allah is a God who hates and that Islam is not a religion of peace.
It's about hating and killing those who disagree with Islam. It's about conquering. Muhammad, he was immoral. He was a bloodthirsty man. He was a terrible man. And they can read that in his biography, what he did to Jews, how he raped women, how he killed people. I mean, he killed everyone who didn't agree with him.
Discouraged, she left Islam and became an atheist, until one day a family relative encouraged her to read the Bible. She still remembers the first time she read Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, where Jesus said to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you.
It was very strange for me, love your enemy, because in Islam you have to kill your enemy. Kill your enemy and kill everyone who refuses Islam. But Jesus Christ, it was all about love and peace and forgiveness and tolerance. And for some reason, I needed that.
She went to see Pastor Faoud Rasho, a Syrian immigrant who ministers to former Muslims in Sweden.
She started to believe, and she came to me. That was the beginning of her trusting.
I was so happy. I was filled with joy. Then I accepted Jesus Christ.
Mona says the Lord gave her a burden for Muslims who still do not know the truth about Islam, and she began to copy verses from the Quran and hand them out on the street to Muslim women.
Sometimes they listen, sometimes they become very upset, and I just told that, you know, that your husband, he have a right to beat you if you don't obey him. And say, no, it does not say that. Yes, it says that. I thought that if I tell them about Muhammad and about the Quran and this God of Islam who hates, who kills, who discriminates women, maybe they will have a choice and leave.
But in politically correct Sweden, Mona Walter has come under attack for simply telling Muslims what is in the Quran.
And I've been called Islamophobe, and yeah, you've been bought, you're a house nigger and stuff like that, terrible things.
She has also been called a racist. Walter warns that Islamic radicalism is a serious threat in Sweden and says Swedish society should care more about women trapped in Islam.
They will think like, oh, we're in Sweden, we have a freedom of religion. But Muslim women don't have a freedom of religion. They live under the law of Allah, not under Swedish law. So they will suppose everyone have a freedom of religion. We don't have freedom of religion. It's not for Muslim women, it's for everyone else.
She lives under death threats and sometimes travels with police protection. She wanted to show us Muslim areas around Gothenburg, but had to first dress as a Muslim. She believes if she were to show her face, she would be attacked.
I never go to those areas just to be in me, just to be in flesh and blood, Mona. I never get out of there alive. I mean, Muslims are normally good people, like everyone else. But when they read Quran, then they become a killing machine. This so-called ISIS or Al-Shabaab or Boko Haram, they're not extremists, they're not fanatical, or they're just a good Muslim. Good Muslim who follow the teachings of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, he did that. They're doing just what he did.
Walter now uses videos and speaking appearances to spread her message And she says she won't stop, even though her life is in danger. Dale Hurd, CBN News, in Gothenburg, Sweden.
And finally this hour, we leave you with a message of thanks on this Thursday. We call it out Thursday Thankful. It's also what I prayed this morning as I thought about some of the chaos that continues to unfold in our world. Thank you, God, for being faithful through every storm and for being my consistent peace. In all that we see, from the earthquake in Nepal to the crisis on the streets of Baltimore, it is simply important to remember God is in control. And with that, make this a thankful Thursday.
He is faithful, and that's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com.
We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.